Welcome back to StabtheDragon Productions for Whiskey Review number 23. Looking at Acre Texas Single Malt from Fort Worth, Texas. The big scheme of things is that I've been reviewing Fort Worth and North Texas whiskeys for about 6 months, I guess since August of 2021. I take breaks from that lineup once in a while, and this last break has actually lasted over 2 months. In this series, I last reviewed Acre Distillery's Texas Rye. And I said then it may be my favorite rye for now. But since that review, number 16, I have reviewed 6 other whiskeys. Last week, or a couple of weeks ago, it was Blanton's Single Barrel Bourbon, Gold Edition. Now I'm back into the Fort Worth whiskeys and still have several to go. Fort Worth, Texas is blessed to have several very good distilleries. You've got Firestone and Robertson, which puts out TX brand, Blackland Distillery, Trinity River Distillery, which puts out Silver Star whiskey. Oak and Eden whiskeys are in the area, and now we're examining Acre Distillery, which puts out Longhair Jim Bourbon, Texas Rye, and today Texas Single Malt. Actually, this distillery, Acre Distillery, probably puts out more variety of distilled spirits than any other distillery in Fort Worth. They have a lot of vodkas and gins and all kinds of other stuff. Now, I made my second trip to the Acre Distillery in the old Hell's Half Acre district of Fort Worth, just south of downtown, and I tried the Texas Single Malt, and this is back, I don't know when that was, February maybe. And after the first couple of sips, I went back to the bar and asked Rose for a bottle. And that is some amazing whiskey by my taste buds. So let's look at the history of this. Now, I'm not going to go through the history of Fort Worth and Hell's Half Acre again like I did with Longhair Jim. You can go back to my Longhair Jim Bourbon to see all that. Let me just say that this distillery is in the part of town that used to be the red light district for all the cowboys and railroad workers and meat packing plant guys. It was notorious for criminals 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, 150 years ago even. You even had the famous Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and their Wild Bunch there. Acre Distillery began in 2015 when Tony Formby, a former majority owner of the Rahr & Sons Brewery in Fort Worth, left Rahr and left brewing beer to start distilling spirits. And he took with him J.B. Flowers and Brad Bourbons, also from Rahr. Together, they started distilling gin, vodka, rum, liqueurs, bourbon, and single malts, and that rye whiskey. A few months ago, I did a couple of reviews of Oak and Eden whiskeys, and Rahr Inspire was one of those reviews. So there's a collaboration with Rahr between Oak and Eden and also now with Acre Distillery. I chose this whiskey because it's one of the 2 whiskeys that Acre Distillery has in the liquor stores locally. They've got the Longhair Jim Bourbon and then this one, the rye whiskey you have to get at the distillery. But this Texas Single Malt is one of their core products. And so this whiskey has won silver in 2019 at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. It won bronze at the Great American International Spirits Competition 2019. And when I checked for reviews, there just aren't many reviews of this whiskey out there. So probably the range of their products is not that great. It's probably just here in Texas and not even all throughout Texas probably. So Rex and Daniel of the Whiskey Vault have done a YouTube review of this whiskey. And they liked it a little bit, but faulted it for being too agricultural, granola smell, and also the flavor. So with the total history of Fort Worth, Hell's Half Acre, and of this distillery and the modest awards it's won, I do give it a 5 out of 5 for history. Bottle, packaging, and marketing. 5 points possible. I have not seen any advertising for this whiskey and only a couple of reviews, like I said, although they did make it to the Whiskey Vault, so that's a pretty big time, big league review. But there's just not that many reviews written or on YouTube. The bottle, as you can see, is pretty plain. It's unlike the bottle of Longhair Jim, or I should say, really, the label is unlike it. Longhair Jim has a really fancy, nice label. The rye whiskey also is a very plain label. And then there's a few other of Acre's whiskeys that have really nice labels, and the rest are just very plain Jane. It's got a rubber stopper, not a cork. And the label in small print at the top says, "Lord, make us good, but not right now." I think that's on all their products. And then in a little Acre design, it says small batch Texas barley. So they have a small medallion on there that says San Francisco World Spirits Competition Silver. So you can see that right there maybe. And then on the other side it's got a little Texas emblem there. It says Fort Worth, Texas. And they've got some standard advertising hoo-ha stuff on the back and all the legal stuff. So really, for the bottle, packaging, advertising, only 2 out of 5. Composition, up to 15 points here. The bottle clearly says this single malt batch, small batch, is made from Texas barley. It's a 750 milliliter bottle with 50% ABV or 100 proof. The website says 2-row barley, grown and harvested in Hillsboro, Texas, malted and milled in Fort Worth, then aged and mashed, fermented, and aged in Acre Distillery. 30 gallons, 30-gallon barrels, new charred American white oak with a char level of 3. The bottle says that it's been aged no less than 37 months, which is just over 3 years. Now, it just doesn't get any more clear and transparent than this, really. So 15 out of 15 points for composition. But keep in mind that single malts do have an advantage in this category. But at least, you know, one of the things they did with this single malt is they told you where in Texas it's from. Now, I did see something somewhere. I don't know if it was one of the few reviews that I found or something on the website that said the barley was from the Panhandle of Texas. But clearly the website that I checked said it was from Hillsboro, which is south of the DFW Metroplex. The physical appearance of this whiskey, up to 5 points. This is a medium dark amber. You know, it's got decent legs, but really, you know, that's fairly dark. And I like a darker whiskey. So a 4 out of 5 for physical appearance. Now for the aroma or the nosing. Now, I can actually smell something here. And those of you who've watched any of my other videos know that I have a terrible nose. My nose is just notoriously bad at smelling most whiskeys. Bourbons I just can't smell hardly at all. Some ryes I can smell, and then single malts I can smell. Scotch. This is a single malt, so I'm actually smelling something. I smell the sweetness in the malt, a little bit of the Texas funk, actually. Texas whiskeys have a particular smell and taste that's very distinguishable. Now, Rex and Daniel over at the Whiskey Vault say it smells grassy and granola-like, so they didn't like it a whole lot. They didn't trash it either, but basically I think some will think this smells young, maybe. But being aged for over 3 years in Texas, that's actually a long time. So I'm going to say 8 out of 10 because my standard is 7 out of 10 because I can't smell anything. But this one I can smell a little bit. So yeah, 8 out of 10. All important taste is next. And when I tasted this at the distillery's bar, I was actually a bit leery because I struggle with single malts. When it comes to Scotch, I prefer the blends, but So I was just a little bit leery. I'd never had a Texas single malt before. So I asked for a pour. I got a pour, sat down, and bingo. I mean, I liked it from the first sip. Uh, so, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was a surprise. This really, to me, tasted very good, very different, fresh, lively. Now, I've had many Texas whiskeys. This one was clearly different, and that's the single malt. But yet it still has the Texas funk. That's what I call it. So I immediately, bought the bottle. To me, this is sweet. It's spicy. You've got the malt flavor combined with the Texas funk. So it's pretty unique to me. And again, I've not really had any other Texas single malts or any American single malts for that matter. But there's a richness here. This is 100 proof and it's aged for over 3 years in Texas. So this is going to be, pretty substantial, I think. But again, I have nothing to compare it with. So it's very different from the corn whiskeys and bourbons. I'm getting a little bit of cinnamon on there too. So for me, it's a keeper. I will be interested in comparing this with other single malts in the future. I know Balcones has one. In fact, I've got a Balcones that I've not opened. That's a single malt. So, am I getting the agricultural vegetable flavors that Rex and Daniel were getting? Not really. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm showing my inexperience here, and that's fine. But to me, this is rich. It's sweet. It's yeah, I really like that. So I'm going to say 22 out of 25 on the taste. Mouth feel and finish. It does have a thick, rich, viscous feel to it. And at 100 proof, you'd think it would. You do get a nice spicy mouth burn tingle. But you're not getting a raw alcohol burn here, but you're feeling the 100 proof. Can go up into my sinuses a little bit, which I enjoy. I mean, I like a whiskey with a little bit of a burn. And this has that, but it's not just an alcohol burn at all. I mean, there's a spicy tingle that goes with this. It's got a long finish. It doesn't really give me a Kentucky hug, but boy, that mouth tingle and the flavor lingers quite a bit. So I'm going to say this is almost even smoky. I mean, I guess that's a thing with Texas single malts maybe. But this has got a very rich feel and a long finish to it. So I'm going to say 13 out of 15 points for the mouth feel and finish. What about the price, value, and availability? I paid $45 at the distillery bar for this. Total Wine's got it for $43.99. Specs doesn't have it. Now Specs has Longhair Jim, and they've got the Acre vodkas, but they don't have this one. Goody Goody has it listed at $48.99, but listed but unavailable. So I've not seen it at Goody Goody's, but their website says they have it. I do not know how far outside of Dallas-Fort Worth this is available. Okay, I have no idea about that. I think the price is fair. This is a craft distillery, and you're getting a single malt. It's 3 years old in Texas, 100 proof, for $45. I am pleased with the price and the value. And again, I'm an inexperienced consumer of American or Texas single malts, but it seems like this is a good price, a good value for me, and I'm certainly happy with it. I have no idea why Specs doesn't carry it, but it's their loss. They should carry it. So I have to deduct some because it's not sold at Specs, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for price, value, and availability. Now, is this a neat or mixer? Up to 5 points here. I drink all my whiskeys neat. I'm starting to stick my toe in the waters of mixed drinks, but so far that's just, margaritas and tequila, I guess. But this drink is strong enough in proof and flavor to be used as a mixer, but I don't know what you'd mix a single malt with. I really don't. I mean, to me, it's designed to be consumed neat. So I have no idea about mixing this, but some whiskeys are just kind of lame, and so you want to hide it in a cocktail, I guess. This is not lame. This is bold Texas flavor right here. And so I highly recommend drinking it neat. So 5 points. Bonus points, hometown advantage, obviously. Great history for this distillery in the hometown. Good flavor for me. So yeah, 5 points on the bonus. What can I say? Hometown. Total points, 87. Letter grade. My letter grades are always higher than the total points, because total points, I mean, you can get some dings for some things that are clearly not the whiskey's fault, like, hey, Specs doesn't carry it. Okay, whose fault is that? I don't know. So letter grade, A minus, I think. This is potentially an A, but I need to drink some other Texas single malts and other American single malts in order to compare, because I have no idea. I mean, this actually may be, pretty low grade as far as other people are concerned. I have no idea, but I'm happy with it. So if you are interested in Texas whiskeys, this Acre Texas Single Malt would be a great starting place. If, like me, you're drinking your way around the Texas distilleries and you haven't tried this, you've got to try it. Admittedly, I'm, homeboy here. It's a Fort Worth distillery, so yeah, I'm really rooting for it. And I really think this is my favorite single malt so far, which I've only had one. Well, actually, if I compare this with Scotch single malts, seriously, I would put this up again. I mean, I've got Talisker Storm, Ardbeg 10. I've had Glenlivet 12. And of all those famous scotches, I mean, I guess I'm really just not much of a Scotch guy. I would take this Acre Texas Single Malt over any of those scotches. That's just me. It's my personal preference, I guess. But I highly recommend this whiskey. Well, this is StabtheDragon signing out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Drink responsibly. Don't drive and drink.